came from a village in Dorset where there was about 200 houses that had grown only from the Victorian times, and it had taken from that time for that community to develop with the pub, the church, the village hall, the children's playground, all the activities that take place. This is a new development. We've got a lot of new people here. It's not going to happen overnight.
It's a huge challenge to make community. I think it's something that's missing nowadays in busy life. But there's not a lot in this corner of Chichester for people to go to.
The Trust started when the development began at Graylingwell Park in 2009. This development of over 800 new build and refurbished properties should be completed in the next 5 years. And one big project we've been working on is the redevelopment and restoration of Graylingwell Chapel. And we've been working over between 3 and 4 years to work with the community to develop plans for the chapel, for not only its design but also, most importantly, its use and its long-term future. We were really fortunate to get a HLF startup grant, so we used that to build a steering group. Off the back of that, we then travelled up and down the country looking at other schemes to compare and contrast and see what has worked and also what hasn't worked. We did a number of community consultations, so we worked across the city, invited people to come and share their views and to really pinpoint what the use would be, what local residents, schools, stakeholders, but also existing users of the chapel who have been using it for the last 10 years as well wanted to see in the building. So we established a steering group and we went out to local professionals and also residents, and what we wanted to do was cover the key skills of the project. So we've got a couple of local residents, Mike, and also a team member, Lena, who led on the interpretation. So how are we going to tell the story of Graylingwell through the building? It used to be an asylum. We worked with Coral and Carol, who both took a catering lead. So they're looking at what cafes locally work. We worked with a couple of local residents, one of whom is an ex-engineer. So he really helped us on the management and maintenance plan and the M&E reports. We also work with another resident, Ken, so he's our brilliant heritage lead. So it's looking at the skills we need and bringing that into the steering group to make sure we cover all the bases of the project, and it gives us that kind of support practically as well going forward.
Often if you live somewhere, and I think never so much than at this present political climate, you think everybody's pulling against one another. So I think it's really positive to be part of something where everybody's pulling together to achieve a common aim. And when you can see things happening and things changing and you know you've contributed to those things, you feel a sense of achievement. It makes you feel part of belonging to something.
We asked a number of different questions through the consultation process to help lead them into thinking differently about the project, rather than just saying, what does it look like? We asked them, how does it feel? What are you doing there? And really tried to channel the questions to get a more thought-provoking response. We invited people to vote with Lego bricks what they wanted to see in the chapel. We then were able to give the Lego bricks to a member of our management group. So he took our Lego and turned it into our wonderful Lego chapel. And it's been a great tool to take out and talk to people about, and a much more cost-effective way of showing what the building will look like than a very expensive architect-designed tile approach. We were really fortunate to have a small piece of funding to be able to take that whole consultation project forward, and we were so pleased with the work because when we then worked up the plans, we did an exhibition at the Chapel of the Plans, and we had over 230 people come through and comment on the plans. So we then used those comments to make some slight adjustments. The original plans, people weren't too overly pleased with the design of the stage. They felt that kind of blocked some of the more spiritual aspects of the building. So we took a redesign on that, and there was also some comments on the new entrance area, so again we redesigned that. So in terms of closing that loop, it's kind of a nice story because we put in the planning permission and list of building consent and we didn't get any objections. And I think a lot of that is about the fact that we've always said as a development trust, it's not about ownership for us, we're there to protect the buildings for the future for the residents. And we've got a couple of key volunteers, one of which I mentioned earlier, Coral. She's an avid dog walker, and somebody being out in the community every single day banging the drum of, do you know what we're doing? Do you know how it's working? Residents see other residents taking the lead and that's absolutely critical, I think, in the design process, because then it meant that everyone felt like they were listened to.
My personal vision is to get the community to engage. So I regard myself as the great champion for the cause. So I'm always telling people about the good work that they're doing, about the chapel in particular, and how people should start getting involved.
I think it's vital, because we can sit and think we have a brilliant idea on our own and go ahead with it, but if we don't get the community involved right from the beginning, then we might sit with an empty building. They're the ones that are going to make the building viable long term. If we create something that they don't actually want, or they don't need, or they don't see themselves using, then we're just working on a dead building, really.
I think that the best piece of advice we could give is, even if you think you've consulted everyone, do it again. And maybe keep doing it, and it takes a lot longer than people realise, I think. We went through the pre-planning route where we got the planners to give us their opinions as well. I think another key thing is not to have an ego. So once you design something and people are not happy about it, you've got to not be proud at all and make those changes, because you will hear things you don't want to hear and you might not agree with, but you know, as we've always said, we're building this for the community, not our own personal wonderful space.
I know they're planning a soft play area. There'll be meeting rooms here and here. The top end will stay as is for worship if people want to. And then there'll be movable displays.
We're looking for something unique in Chichester. We're looking to create a really great space that's unlike anything else in the city, and that really fills that gap of building a cohesive community, to have a coffee, to understand the heritage of the site and take part in fantastic activities.
It'll be a place where people will feel welcome, not just for Graylingwell but the whole area, and a place where people can come and not be so lonely and feel they're part of the community as well. It'll be lovely to see it filled with lots of people doing different things, all ages. That's what I'm looking forward to.